My name is Silas Kiriinya. I am a counseling psychologist and the CEO of ABBA'S Counseling Center. And today I am glad that I'm here again to be able to share on the topic of trauma. Now, I know this is not something that so many people really know about. I hear just people having normal conversations and they are literally talking about trauma. But when you look at it, really you kind of understand that these people have no grasp of what it is that they are talking about. And so today we're here so that we can clarify this topic of trauma and probably be able to help people know when they are traumatized, what trauma is, and how it manifests itself in their bodies, and probably even how they can recover from trauma and where they can get help from. To begin with, I will make a very one strong statement and say that Africa is built on trauma. Africa is built on trauma. I know you really would want to know how is it that. Yeah, the truth is that when you look at our countries, let's say take an example like Kenya, you will notice that this country is built on a lot of trauma. For example, there was a lot of bloodshed that happened during the Mau Mau, so that people are able to have freedom of their own. There are those families that were affected. There were families that lost their livelihood. Their family members lost. Some lost like all the male figures in the family. Apart from that, there are many other traumas that have happened. There are many communities that are fighting even right now, and those communities obviously are raising issues of a lot of trauma. And so I would say that in Africa and generally, there are layers and layers of trauma that have not been resolved, because somehow also people have adopted the way of manning up, trying to man up, or in other words, trying to really hide everything, suppress everything so that you move on with life. But also some other times we have no time to focus on trauma because you really have to focus on where to get school fees, where to get food, where to get a job. And all these struggles, sometimes they kind of make trauma look like secondary. And so we have to focus on what is primary. Now, to begin with, trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, maybe rape, or a natural disaster. And so what that means is there is no event in itself which is traumatic, but actually our response. Note what I'm saying, that trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, or natural calamity, meaning that it is how we respond to a traumatic experience. It's easy to look at an accident and just think that someone was traumatized out of that accident, but you may be surprised that they came out and they were so grateful to God that they survived. And so for them, it's almost like an opportunity of gratitude other than trauma. And then there is someone else who actually looks at that traumatic experience and says, if I didn't go through that trauma, I wouldn't have honestly become aware of many things in my life. A good example that I can offer is the example of Saint Bakita. Saint Bakita, after she was abducted and she was sold into slavery, she was really mistreated by her first master and the second master. And I think when she was there, she went to a church in Italy. And it is here that she saw Jesus the first time, because she was a Muslim. First time she saw Jesus on the cross. And seeing Jesus on the cross, I think for her, transformed her life, because she felt like, honestly, that this guy had suffered so much. He had gone through terrible things. He was naked. And so she didn't understand the background that we have as Christians. So for her, it was something new that she was seeing. And so she somehow identified pain with the pain of the man on the cross. And this really transformed her life. And here, later on, we hear her say that if I were to get those people who sold me into slavery and those people who persecuted me, I would actually kneel down and give them thanks. For if they didn't do that, I wouldn't have met my master, Lord Jesus Christ. And so it is about the perception that actually makes something traumatic or not traumatic. But anyway, there are some immediate effect of trauma. For example, immediately after the event, there is shock, there is denial, there is people detaching themselves, trying to block the experience, trying to suppress themselves, try to hide themselves, try to disconnect with everybody else, fearing for their own life. So, of course, there are longer term reactions that it can get to a place of unpredictable emotions. There are flashbacks, there are strained relationships even with other people, and even physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, people are not able to sleep, they lose appetite, and many other things. And so that how trauma manifests itself. So maybe I'll take the next few minutes just to focus a little bit on how trauma really manifests in the lives of people as we move on with this talk of today.